They say you should never share your best ideas too soon, but when you're the youngest developer on a team that barely remembers your name, sometimes the only way to be seen is to shine a little too brightly. My name is Jessica Tran. I'm 27 years old, and until last month, I was a junior software developer at a mid-sized tech company called Hensley Innovations in San Diego. The kind of place with beanbags in the lobby, kombucha on tap, and a ceiling made of reinforced glass. I didn't come from Stanford or MIT. I came from night classes at a community college, building code between waitressing shifts. I got hired because I was cheap, fast, and didn't ask for much. For the first 6 months, I worked in silence, shipped bug fixes, and kept my ideas in a notebook I never let out of my sight. Until one day, I slipped. It was during a brainstorming meeting. Our team was struggling with a project called VibeLink, an internal experiment aimed at connecting creators with audiences through AI-driven interest mapping. The client was on edge, and our lead dev had just resigned. Our manager, Darren, was panicking. He turned to the room and said, "Anyone got anything?" I hesitated. Then I opened my notebook. I pitched an app interface that would integrate with existing social APIs, learn user habits passively, and serve content creators with tailored audience analytics in real time. I'd been working on it quietly for 6 months on weekends, refining every line. Darren looked up from his laptop for the first time all meeting. "That's not bad," he muttered. By the end of the day, he'd asked me to send over my notes. I should have known. What followed was 3 weeks of vague meetings I wasn't invited to. A team of senior devs pulled from other projects. My design sketches disappeared from my desk. Darren barely spoke to me unless it was to ask for a quick clarification. And then came the email. "Team," it read, "I'm excited to announce that VibeLink has been selected as a finalist for the Future Tech Innovation Award. This project wouldn't exist without the visionary leadership of Darren Klein. Let's celebrate his brilliance." I stared at the screen, unable to blink. My name wasn't mentioned. Not once. At the awards dinner, Darren wore a navy suit and the same smug smile he used when taking credit for someone else's work. When he stood on stage, holding the glass trophy like he'd forged it with his bare hands, he said, "Innovation is about listening to the future. And sometimes the best ideas are born when leadership gives them room to grow." I clapped, quietly, with everyone else. After the ceremony, he found me near the exit. "You're young, Jess," he said, patting my shoulder like a friendly uncle. "You'll get your chance. Someday." I just smiled and said, "Of course." But what he didn't know, what no one in that building knew, was that 3 months earlier I'd filed for a provisional patent. Quietly, under my own name, on my own time. I hadn't expected to need it. I was just trying to protect something I'd poured my soul into. But now it was insurance. I didn't go nuclear. Not yet. I went home that night and watched the award speech replay on the company's social feed. It had already racked up over 12,000 views. Clients were reaching out. Tech blogs were writing glowing articles about Darren's vision. And I sat in the dark, laptop open, fingers hovering over a folder labeled "Full Documentation, Patent Proof." I wasn't angry. Not in the loud, throwing things kind of way. I was hollow, like a ghost watching someone else live the life I'd built. Then my phone buzzed. It was my best friend Maya, who worked in IP law. Saw the announcement. "Is this the one you told me about? The patent app you filed in April?" "Yes." "You know what this means, right?" "Yeah," I wrote back. "I do, because Darren didn't just steal my idea. He'd stolen something that didn't legally belong to him, and that's where the unraveling would begin." It's strange how the smallest moments change everything. The morning after the awards ceremony, I showed up to work at 8:03 a.m., coffee in one hand, badge in the other. Darren walked past me in the hallway, still high off the spotlight. "Morning, Jess," he said, without even looking, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't watched him stand on a stage and collect praise for the idea I'd sketched on a paper napkin at a diner 6 months earlier. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and pulled up the internal product files. I scrolled through the recent edits. The framework, the code structure, the UI sequence, even the AI logic flow. It was all mine. Just rewritten in a different voice. A few variables renamed. A few functions reshaped. But the bones were unmistakable. And yet, in the metadata, the author listed was Darren. Of course, I took a slow breath and plugged in my external drive. Backups of every draft, sketch, and git commit from my private repository. Date stamped, versioned. I documented it all, not because I expected betrayal, but because I'm the kind of person who always keeps receipts. That morning, Maya called. I talked to a partner at my firm. She said, "We have a potential infringement case. Your provisional patent holds weight, especially if the published work bears substantial similarity." I didn't sign anything when I joined. I told her, pacing in the stairwell. No IP clause about side projects. She was quiet for a beat. "Jess, you might be holding a grenade. The question is, when do you pull the pin?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I did what I'd always done. I worked. I kept my head down and documented everything. Every change in the codebase. Every file that appeared in internal documentation with Darren's name on it. I created a mirrored timeline of development, matching my original proposal against the company's published work. At home, I barely slept. My stomach was a fist of knots, not from fear, from injustice. Because the longer I stayed silent, the more I watched my idea be paraded around like someone else's trophy. The final straw came 2 weeks later, a press release. Hensley Innovations announces strategic partnership with Quantum Collective using groundbreaking tech from VibeLink platform. The contract was rumored to be worth 7 figures. Darren's name was quoted in every article. Visionary, trailblazer, the face of innovation. I read it 3 times, then stared at the ceiling of my studio apartment, blinking back tears. Then I sent the email. Subject, intellectual property dispute. VibeLink framework to legal@hensleyinnovations.com. CC, Maya Patel, legal counsel, myself. Message, I am writing to inform you of a pending intellectual property conflict regarding the core architecture and concept behind the VibeLink platform, which was originally developed, documented, and provisionally patented by me under the USPTO filing number 83723-P. Attached are copies of my original development logs, dated prototypes, and submission confirmations. Please treat this as an official notice of ownership claim and potential infringement. Jessica Tran. It felt surreal, like hitting send on a letter you've written 100 times in your head but never thought you'd actually mail. By noon, my badge access was suspended. HR called within the hour. "This is a misunderstanding," they said carefully. "We'd like to discuss it internally before you make any formal statements." Too late, because Maya had already looped in a tech publication contact. Not a story, not yet. Just a quiet inquiry. But it was enough to make the wheels start turning. By the next morning, word had leaked. TechChain Weekly ran a headline. Anonymous developer claims patent theft behind award-winning app. Anonymous. For now, but not for long. That afternoon, I got a text from Darren. "You've made your point. Let's talk." No lawyers. I didn't respond. Because it was already too late for friendly negotiations. He had underestimated me, believed his title protected him, that I'd stay silent, grateful for proximity to power. But I didn't want proximity anymore. I wanted credit. I wanted truth. And now I had it. And soon everyone else would too. By Friday morning, everything had changed. What started as a quiet claim had become something louder, messier, real. Maya called me before I'd even had coffee. "It's live," she said. "What is?" Tech Radar picked it up. They ran a follow-up on the anonymous developer claim. But this time, they used your name. I pulled the article up on my phone. There it was. My name in bold. Jessica Tran, former junior developer at Hensley Innovations, alleges her idea was stolen and used without credit. Patent filing dates back over 3 months before the award-winning launch of VibeLink. Underneath that, a screenshot of my original concept sketch, the one I'd drawn during a late-night shift at that all-night diner stained with coffee and dreams. They'd even found the patent filing. My hands were shaking. I should have felt fear. Regret? Something. But instead, I felt steady. Finally. At noon, my inbox exploded. Some emails were supportive. Former coworkers, classmates, even strangers who said things like, "Your courage just gave me mine." Others weren't so kind. Anonymous accounts calling me ungrateful, attention-seeking, jealous. But the worst one came from Darren. Subject: "You're ruining everything. I don't know what kind of stunt you're pulling, Jess. But it's not too late to stop. Take it down, walk away quietly, and we can figure something out. I can talk to the board. This doesn't have to get uglier than it already is." He still thought this was a negotiation. Still thought I wanted a seat at a table that had already burned me. I didn't reply. Instead, Maya and I set a meeting with her firm's IP litigation team. They were interested. Very interested. Because it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about setting a precedent. A message to companies that ideas aren't free just because they come from someone without a title. That weekend, I left the city. I drove up to my aunt's cabin in Big Bear Lake. No cell reception, no Wi-Fi. Just time. I sat by the fire and tried to remember what life had felt like before the betrayal. Before I'd watched someone else wear my work like a tailored suit. Before I'd learned how easily people rewrite history if you don't speak up. When I got back on Monday morning, I had 92 unread emails. The first was from Hensley Innovations' legal team. "We have received your complaint and are conducting an internal review. In the meantime, we request that you refrain from making any additional public statements until the matter is resolved." The second was from a journalist at Founders Digest. "We'd like to profile your story, not just the legal battle, but your voice, the creator behind the idea. Are you open to an interview?" Maya advised caution. "If this goes to trial, every word will be scrutinized." But I was done hiding. I agreed. The interview was honest, emotional. I didn't attack anyone. I didn't throw accusations. I just told the truth. How I'd worked on VibeLink long before Hensley ever knew it existed. How I'd trusted someone who saw me as a tool, not a creator. How I'd filed the patent quietly. Not out of arrogance, but out of self-preservation. And most importantly, how women in tech are often told to be grateful, to wait their turn, to not make noise. But sometimes, noise is the only language power understands. 2 days later, the article dropped. Not just a seat at the table, how Jessica Tran fought back against IP theft in tech. It went viral in under 24 hours, LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit, everywhere. And then the thing no one expected happened. An email from Quantum Collective, the partner named in the press release. The company who had just signed the 7-figure deal. Subject: urgent, VibeLink partnership review. Jessica, I read your story. I've also reviewed your patent filing. I want you to know, we were never made aware of this situation. We're pausing the deal with Hensley immediately while we conduct our own due diligence. If your claims are valid, and frankly they appear to be, we won't move forward. Sincerely, Grant Murdoch, President, Quantum Collective. I read it 3 times. Then I forwarded it to Maya. Her reply came in all caps. They're bleeding. The truth wasn't just out there. It was working. And Hensley was finally starting to feel the consequences. But this was only the beginning. The real storm hadn't even started yet. 3 days after the Quantum Collective deal was paused, the silence from Hensley became deafening. No press statement. No denial. Just nothing. Except internally, something was boiling. I knew it. Because on Thursday morning, I got a LinkedIn message from someone I hadn't spoken to in months. Alex Rowe, a senior software engineer at Hensley, and someone who had once helped me debug a broken UI element after everyone else left for drinks. "Jess, I don't know if this helps, but I've seen your name removed from commit logs before. I didn't say anything then because I didn't want to get involved. But what they did to you? That wasn't just unethical. It was intentional. If you need someone to back you up, I'm here. I stared at the screen. My stomach twisted. Not with surprise, but confirmation. What I'd suspected all along was true. This wasn't just Darren going rogue. It was systemic. Maya and her team took that message and folded it into the case file, along with the Git history, the UI sketches, the emails, the version control timelines. We had built a wall of receipts, tall, solid, and irrefutable. The next day, it cracked wide open. Someone leaked internal emails to the press. Real emails, screenshots. One was from Darren to the CTO. We should scrub early devlogs. Can't afford a trail right now. Another read. If Tran pushes this, we'll call it a team collaboration. Who's going to believe a junior anyway? I read those words again and again, like I was trying to force them into something less disgusting. But there it was, in writing. Erasure. Documented. It wasn't just me anymore. It was every junior employee who had ever had their ideas harvested and dismissed. Every "you'll get your turn" whispered over stolen brilliance. That night, a new hashtag started trending. Credit the creator. By the weekend, 3 more people from Hensley had reached out, 2 from marketing, 1 from HR, all with the same message. We saw it too. We were told to stay quiet. Maya called me that Sunday afternoon. Her voice was clipped, energized. They're scared. They should be. She paused. They're offering a settlement. I stopped mid-step in my apartment. Already? They want to resolve this quietly. Financial compensation, a confidentiality clause, and a formal retraction from you. I almost laughed. They wanted my silence more than they wanted justice. How much? I asked. Not because I cared about the number, but because I wanted to know how little they thought the truth was worth. 7 figures, she said. It's generous, but it comes with a muzzle. I finished. Exactly. I didn't need to think. I'd already made the decision weeks ago, sitting in the dark after the award ceremony. When they took my idea, they took something personal. But when they tried to erase me completely, they declared war. No, I said. We take it to court. Maya didn't flinch. Then we go public with the full documentation next week and file the formal suit by Friday. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. My heart beat like a war drum, but my voice stayed calm. Let's do it. That night, I pulled up my old prototype. The original code. It still ran. Simple, rough around the edges, but fully functional. My fingerprint was everywhere, from the data flow to the risk analysis logic. I stared at it for a long time. Then I added a title screen, created by Jessica Tran. Nothing flashy, just true. By Monday, the story hit Wired. Startup giant faces, legal battle over stolen IP. Junior developer files lawsuit with receipts. Attached were snippets of the leaked emails, side-by-side code comparisons, and a quote from me. This isn't just about one app. It's about every unseen hand that makes innovation possible. And it's time those hands were named. Suddenly, people started listening. My inbox filled with interviews, podcast requests, messages from developers across the world. Many of them women, first-gen grads, or immigrants like me. I didn't think I could speak up until I saw you did. Your story is my story. Different company, same theft. We see you, we're behind you. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone. Hensley tried to issue a statement. It was hollow, full of vague phrases like unintended oversight, respect for innovation, and moving forward with transparency. But it was too late for damage control, because now it was in the hands of the court. And more importantly, of the public. Darren had stolen my work, but now I was taking back my name. Not for revenge, for recognition, and for everyone who'd ever been told they were just lucky to be in the room. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No dramatic wood-paneled ceilings, no echoing chambers, just pale walls, quiet tension, and a judge who barely looked up as we began. It had been nearly 8 months since I'd sent that first email. Since Darren stood on stage holding a trophy he didn't earn. Since I'd smiled through gritted teeth while being erased in real time. Now, everything was in the open. Emails, Git logs, test versions, witness statements, internal memos, the original prototype, the patent filing date, the interview clips, the screenshots. Every piece of it meticulously laid out by Maya and her team like chess moves leading to an inevitable checkmate. And yet, Hensley still tried to fight. They framed it as collaborative development, claimed my idea emerged organically through team discussions, claimed I had agreed to contribute without expecting recognition. And Darren, sitting there in his expensive tailored suit, still looked like he believed he could talk his way out of it. He took the stand on day 3. He called me a promising young talent. He smiled, softened his voice, leaned into the performative humility. "I always believed in Jessica," he said. "I just think there was a misunderstanding. She was part of a team. Innovation doesn't belong to one person." And that's when Maya stood. Permission to introduce Exhibit 42? It was a video clip. Internal screen recording from Hensley's Slack workspace. A message from Darren. "She's not ready for credit. Let's be strategic. Keep her name off the press materials, at least until after we lock the funding." The silence that followed was thunderous. The judge looked up for the first time. "We'll resume tomorrow," he said, and banged the gavel. Outside the courtroom, reporters gathered. I kept my sunglasses on and said nothing. Maya answered all the questions. She was the composed one, the shield. I was the story, but she made sure I never became the spectacle. The verdict came 2 weeks later, ruling in favor of the plaintiff, Jessica Tran. The judgment included damages, legal fees, and most importantly, a formal order of correction for authorship and ownership of the VibeLink platform, including the public retraction of Darren's award and recognition of me as the original inventor. I didn't cry. I thought I would. But the moment the ruling was read, I just breathed. For the first time in almost a year, I let my shoulders drop. It was over, but also just beginning. The fallout was swift. Hensley's stock dropped 18% in 3 days. Their upcoming product launch was canceled. Darren was placed on indefinite administrative leave, which became permanent 2 weeks later. The board issued a groveling statement full of promises about ethics reviews and updated internal culture protocols. It wasn't enough to fix what they broke, but it was a start. Meanwhile, the tech world kept talking. Podcasts, panels, roundtables. Jessica Tran became a name people knew, not because I was flashy, but because I had dared to speak while others whispered. I got calls from investors, from incubators, from 3 different universities asking me to guest lecture on innovation ethics. But the message that meant the most came in the form of a handwritten note delivered to Maya's office. No return address, just a single line. "Thank you for showing us we're allowed to fight back." I taped it to the wall above my desk. 6 months later, I launched my own firm, Signal North, a startup consultancy focused on ethical innovation, diverse teams, and intellectual property protection. We don't just build tech. We build futures no one gets to steal. Some of my former coworkers joined. Others sent their resumes quietly. And every time we reviewed a new pitch, I asked one question. Who really made this? Because I never wanted anyone else to sit where I had. Silenced. Overlooked. Watching someone else collect the reward for their labor. The award Darren accepted? It was retracted publicly. And while he tried to return to the spotlight through a podcast, rebranding, no one was listening anymore. You can only steal brilliance for so long before people stop believing you ever had any. Last week, I took the stage at a national tech conference. The same one that once applauded Darren's name. Only this time, the spotlight was on me. I looked out at the crowd. Young developers, founders, engineers, mostly women. Mostly people who had been told they were too junior or not leadership material. And I said this. They called me lucky to be in the room. But luck didn't write that code. Luck didn't design that system. I did. And I almost walked away because I thought no one would believe me. But silence is not a requirement for success. You don't have to disappear to move forward. You can speak. You can fight. And you can win. Afterward, a girl, maybe 19, barely old enough to vote, came up to me with a tear in her eye. "I'm studying computer science," she said. "And every professor says the same thing. Get used to people taking credit. That's just how it works." I smiled. It's how it used to work.